All right, this video is going to be basically about building more core strength. There's a bit of a thing. People who tend to have really flexible spines will have a lot of trouble engaging around the low ribs, engaging the thoracic spine, and keeping that whole connection basically from the pelvis to the ribs and keeping the torso braced. And that can start to compromise a lot of shapes, especially if you're using, coming in inversions, handstands, forearm stands, that kind of thing. The flexibility, there's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but you want to be sure if you're bending in your spine, it's actually what you want to do rather than just your habit of movement. Now, if you need to get used to engaging tension around there's three things that I'm going to recommend. And the first thing is a very low variation of boat where you start to extend out. So basically, bring yourself into boat pose. Weight in the sit bones, lay in the sit bones, legs together, lean back, and take the weight off your feet. Now, to take this a little bit further, keep your legs together. Go ahead and bring the hands together in front of you, point through the fingers, and then see about extending the legs. Go toward halfway down. Now, you can stop here, but keep your belly pulled in, keep your shoulders pulled, basically arms pulling forward, and maybe straighten this out. Now, if you can just hold from this, you can make this a static hold and hold it for time. And if you want to make this even more work, keep this basic shape, but twist. So I'm rolling onto my right hip and pointing to the left. Take it to the other side. I'm on my left hip and I'm pointing to the right. And then back to the right hip, pointing left. Over to the left, pointing right. And you can take it back and forth. And there's no magic number of times you need to do this. And this is going to feel like a big deal. After you've done it enough times, you're just going to want to let go and flop down for a little bit. And that's the first variation here. So it's very good for getting in further up into your spine toward the thoracic spine and not just by the low back. Now, if you want to take this a little bit further, the next thing I'm going to recommend is basically taking this into leg lifts. So this is going to be on your back. Now, the thing to pay attention to here is that the low back stays down, so you want to be sure your low back doesn't lift at all. You shouldn't be able to pull a piece of paper from underneath your low back because you're still pressing into the floor. Belly pulled in, both legs high. Now, to emphasize the hollowing out of the front of the body, lift your head so your neck's up off the floor, hands behind your head set, and there's no stress in your neck, and you can keep looking forward, keep your belly pulled in, keep the low back down. Now, there's two ways to do these sorts of leg lifts, and if you're just starting out with this kind of thing, just do one leg at a time. Keep the legs as straight as you can. If you need to, bend the knees, but keep the legs rigid. Start with the ankles over your hips, and then one at a time. Bring your heel as close to the floor as you can without your low back lifting, and then bring this back up, and then alternate that. Now, you may find that doing this, say like 5 rounds of both legs is going to be enough, maybe 10. And you just want to take it slow and keep that tension. Belly pulled in, head still lifted, and your low back staying down the whole time. Now, if you want to make it more difficult, you can do this with both legs at the same time. Keep the legs squeezing together, belly stays pulled in, head stays lifted. Only bring this down as low as you can control the position of the low back. If my low back lifts here, that's too far, so I'm only going to lift to this point and then come back up. So that's 1 repetition. So you can keep it restricted as long as you have that tension. The important thing is that your belly's pulled in, the low back's down. Now, my limit is a little bit lower. Let's see. I'm going to bring it to about here. And this is about where I can control it. And then come back up. And take it slow. Try to pause at the bottom. And that would be the second exercise that I recommend if you're building that sort of engagement. Now, the third one is basically going to be pulling my feet into a forward fold. I'm going to grab a blanket. And you can use anything. So if you got a smooth floor, maybe use a blanket, maybe a towel, maybe just a piece of fabric, something that your feet can slide on. I'm going to fold my mat in a little bit. And now the whole thing here is you're going to let your legs bend because what you're trying to get into is the engagement of your core. So you want to keep everything here pulled in. You want to feel this crunching in as much as you can. So I'm going to pull my thighs in to touch my belly and keep my butt up in the air, hands still down on the floor. I'm going to fold this in one more time. So my hands are going to be on the mat, and my feet are going to be on the blanket. So I'm going to come into plank to start, and it's not going to take too many of these before you really start to feel it. So hands on the mat, about shoulder width, feet about hips or distance apart. I'm going to keep my shoulders over wrists and press down. Now, all this is core from this point. So you're going to pull your belly in, get the hips as high as you can, bend the knees, pull the thighs toward your belly, stay high on your toes, press down, and then go ahead and slide it back out, and notice that my shoulders stay in place the whole time. And then again, go ahead and pull this forward. Belly pulls in. You can bend the knees. Draw the thighs in to touch your belly. Keep pressing down. And then go ahead and slide it back out. And I'm taking this nice and slow. And what you're trying to do is find the maximum compression, as much core tension as you can to keep the thighs pulled in, and take that back and forth. And that has the added benefit, if you're working towards something like a press handstand, that's going to become very, very useful. But what you're emphasizing here is enough engagement to pull the thighs in close. And that's the third exercise I'd recommend for that sort of thing. Hope this helps. Thank you.